What's going on, guys? I wanted to do a video about calories in, calories out. What are my issues with that way of thinking about nutrition, and a few things that you could use as an alternative. So, first of all, I want to say that calories in, calories out work for most people most of the time. As far as I know, the only people for whom it doesn't work very well are people who are obese or very overweight or are diabetic and have like basically fucked up hormones. So there's that. So if you're an athlete and you're serious, or you're just serious about your training, your nutrition, your sleep, and you have athletic goals, go ahead and do it. But still watch my videos because I have some tips about that. Same thing if you're young and you have a lot of time in front of you and you want to really do things the proper way, go ahead and count your calories. But remember that your performance is going to be as weak as your weakest link in the chain. So your chain is basically your sleep, your nutrition, your training, your recovery, etc. So if you have shitty training or shitty sleep and you have perfect nutrition, it doesn't make sense. But that's not a topic for another time. So yeah, let's get started. So my first issue with calories in, calories out, and this one is not inherently related to it. It's more about how people perceive calories in, calories out, and how they understand it. And the issue is if it fits your macros. So if it fits your macros means that you're gonna basically eat anything that corresponds to a number of grams of protein, of carbs, and of fat, which means that, for example, if your McDonald's meal have the number of fat, carbs, and protein that you're looking for, you're gonna eat it and it's a good meal. Same for ice cream, same for pizza, same for a lot of things. And this is I wouldn't go too deep about it, but basically it's a very wrong way to see nutrition, because what matters is not only macros but also micros, so nutrients and minerals. And it's the open door to bad eating habits and bad health, simply. So again, this isn't inherently caused by calories in, calories out, but it's a way that some people might perceive it. I was among these people when I didn't know anything about nutrition. I thought that if it fits your macros was an alright way to eat, because wow, it's magic, you can eat ice cream and still lose weight. So yeah, that's for if it fits your macros. My second issue with calories in, calories out is sustainability, or shall I say unsustainability. When you use calories in, calories out in your nutrition, you gotta count your calories, count your macros, write them down, or use MyFitnessPal, for example. You gotta stress about what you're eating. Am I eating the right size? If you go to the restaurant, you gotta eyeball your the food. How many calories? How much meat did they cook? How much oil? If you get a drink, how many calories are in there? So I think it's very stressful in general, and it's not sustainable socially. And then there's the other issue, that is, it takes a lot of time and it doesn't work for, let's say, normal people with a normal life and busy life. So it's gonna work if you're like an athlete and you're investing a lot of time in your nutrition and training and sleep and all that. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense if you have a busy job, or if you have a family, especially if you have a family. Like I personally don't know anyone who has a family and who could afford to count their calories. And the other issue with unsustainability is that when you stop, you don't know how to manage your nutrition without counting. So of course you're gonna have like the basics. You're gonna know what's a calorie, how much calories there in, I don't know, in some rice and then in some chicken, etc. But still you wouldn't have learned how to manage your satiety and your hunger signals, and just, you know, be able to maintain the weight, to maintain or bulk or cut or whatever, but maintain the weight you want to be in the long term, forever, until you die. So that's really important. So calories in, calories out work for short term, but realistically it doesn't work for long term, except if you're of course an athlete or you take your training and your athletic goals very seriously. My third issue with calories in, calories out is hunger. So calories works, it works, you know, most of the time for most people, but it doesn't take into consideration hunger. And hunger is really important, especially if you're trying to lose weight. If you're trying to bulk, to gain, you're eating in a surplus, you're probably eating a lot of time, so it doesn't really matter, right? But if you're trying to lose weight, you're gonna feel hunger, and you gotta eat in a way that makes you feel less hungry. Except we don't react to food, well, let's say not every food or not every macro have the same impact on our hunger and on our satiety levels. So let's start with the basics. Protein and fat, they make you feel satiated, so less hungry, you don't want to eat later. Sugar makes you feel hungry because first it expands your stomach, so it physically expands your stomach, and then if you eat too much of it, your insulin is gonna crash, and then you're gonna feel hungry as fuck. So there's that. What else? If you eat a combo of fat and carbs, it makes you really hungry and it makes you binge, and that's why most fast food is a combo of fat and carbs. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Carbs. Well, for carbs it depends. They're usually not the most satiating food, but it also of course depends on how much fiber there is and what's their glycemic index. So if it's a high glycemic index, it's gonna crash your insulin, and it's the same thing as for sugar. So yeah, that's pretty much about it when it comes to calories in, calories out, and hunger. Hunger is really important. We don't react to hunger the same way, and that's why sometimes people say, oh, carbs are fine. Yeah, carbs are not inherently bad, but if you're trying to lose weight and you're like one of these people, which is like really most people, and they eat like a shit ton of carbs, doesn't make sense. You should eat more protein and more fat, and not like make carbs your primary macro. It doesn't even make sense, especially since, well, at least I guess people who watch me, we lift weights, we don't run, and we don't cycle. So we don't need like to be eating carbs all the time, and we don't even need like to have our glycogen stores full every time. But carbs matter for us less than for people who do endurance stuff. So yeah, I was saying that, yeah, of course carbs are not inherently bad, but you need to know that okay, so this is a good way to put it. We have 3 macros, all right? Carbs and fats and protein. If you're eating too much carbs, it means you're eating less protein and less fat. So that's a good way to say it. It's not really about eating carbs. It's about what you're not eating when you're eating too much carbs. And when you don't eat enough protein and enough fat, you are making yourself more hungry over the time. So yeah, that's pretty much my opinion about calories in, calories out. Yes, it works, but it's less simple that we think and that most people realize.